And welcome into post-game number 6 of the Western Conference Finals. Unfortunately, not what we wanted tonight. I'm Gavin Spittle of 105.3 The Fan, joined by EP Ringside, Chap Shots, D Magazine. The name of his new book that talks about the Texas and Dallas Stars is called We Win Here. And unfortunately, for the first time, I have to say it will be great off-season reading as the Dallas Stars got taken to the woodshed, so to speak, by the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas about to make its second appearance in the Stanley Cup final in 6 years. What a tremendous story they are in hockey. And Sean, just wow. This will be brief, our recap. We have a ton of questions to get to, but let's start in the first period because that's when it really all went down.
Yeah, I mean, this was, right, like great roar from the crowd for the opening face-off for the game, and I mean, a couple minutes in and it's all over. And it's to me, there's two major things. Now, the first one, the team that's advancing, give full credit. Vegas's fourth line of Carrier, Waugh, and Colasar, absolutely dynamic in the first period. Dynamic. And that line charged everything and all of that. But across the board, Vegas showed up to play. Vegas came out. They were dominant. And in Dallas did not. They were horrible. They didn't. They laid a complete egg. It was an embarrassing start. And I don't want to pile on because it feels like I'm taking side swiping on this, but it's impossible not to. So the Stars are in this position, down 3-0, because of Jamie Benn's actions in Game 3. They were down 3-0. We talked after Game 3 in a pretty dour mood about how this series was over because of Jamie Benn. And Jamie Benn's teammates went out in Game 4 and 5 and did everything in their power to make sure he had a chance to have an impact, to have an ability to rectify his story in Game 6. And his teammates did that for him. And the entire team was a letdown. But this was I've talked for years, Gavin, about the slow starts that Dallas has had in the Benn era.
You have.
I've talked for years about it. I've talked about how this team will follow Jamie Benn everywhere. And on a night when he was fresh, the Stars needed him. He had zero impact on the game.
Yeah.
And I know there's some people who will think I'm being hard on Ben, and that's okay if you think that. But it's for everything we heard going into this of how, hey, we battled back for Jamie, how the crowd, how the Stars had galvanized and embraced the black hat of we're the bad guys and we're gonna come back from down 3-0 and we'll get Jamie Benn and we're gonna get rolling. For the way they came out and the way they came out to play tonight, to do that, it's embarrassing. And it starts with the leadership. It starts with the captain of the team who did something embarrassing earlier in the series. And it's a sad whimper to the end of a great run. This was a great, fun run. Dallas hockey was fun. And we unfortunately will remember it for a combined aggregate 10-0 from Game 3 and Game 6, where outside of those two performances, Dallas was the better. I mean, Dallas was the better team for more than half of the series. But in the most important moments, when the series was coming back to their home barn, and they needed a victory, and then when they had a chance to force Game 7 after you had so many guys extend their energy and everything, you just laid eggs. And I know it's easy to on the broadcast, they kept talking a lot about how it was like, they spent so much energy and they did this and everything like that. And that's part of it. Like, I get that. That's part of it. But this was the Stars needed vintage Jamie Benn to show up tonight. They needed him to lead his team in the first period, and he did not. And I'm putting all of this. I'm putting a ton of this on him. And I'm not sure if I don't think I'm being too harsh, and you can tell me if I am, Gavin. But it's, to me, this was he asked his team to show up so he could show up in Game 6, and he didn't, and the team didn't.
I think you're 100% right, my man. We started this podcast to not be cheerleaders. And Tom Gallardi pointed out that the media is cheerleaders in this town. Well, I think that's one of the things that makes this podcast what it is. And I think when he has rest, had they lost in overtime, had they lost in a goal, had they lost in two goals, and we'll get to the point where we celebrate the year. There's no doubt about it. It's a magical year. It's a magical ride.
Mm-hmm.
But we're also going to not ignore tonight's efforts. I feel bad for the fans, and I was one of them that paid a lot of money for Game 3 to sit in the stands to enjoy myself, and I walked out not feeling as though I got my money's worth. And I think there were a lot of people tonight, because I talked to people that were in the stands, that did not feel as though they got their money's worth. And that happens in sports. But it shouldn't take Yanni Hakanpää 2 checks to get the crowd fired up.
Mm-hmm.
And for the announcers to point that out. I mean, you had the game plan against Vegas, and you reverted back to shooting from the outside. You reverted to no quality scoring chances. And it was almost like the puck tonight was a hot potato. As soon as you got it, you had to get rid of it, even if, and it's unfortunate because we've talked about Wyatt Johnston having such composure, that led to the first goal where all he had to do was clear the zone and he passes it back. I thought the defensemen were slow tonight. I thought, on 2 of the goals, Sean, I'm just going to be candid. I don't like NHL players gliding when they're a 2-on-1 breakaways, and Jamie Benn was gliding on one of them. And, you can go back, you can watch the replay, and there were a couple times, even Miro tonight gliding. And to me, in Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals, you should not be gliding. You should be skating. And that it's frustrating. I tried not to let my emotions get the best of me, but at the same time, when you're not exerting your physicality, when you're not using your speed, you left your goalie out to dry. And it's just disappointing. It's sad. I think if you look at it as a whole, sure. If I break down every game, for the most part, Vegas would be the better team in this series. However, you did not play your game for this entire series, and I absolutely agree with you. They showed Bruce Cassidy before the game and his speech to the Knights players. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
And it was impressive, basically telling them, go back to basics. Don't worry about what they're doing. Worry about what you're doing. And you're right. Dallas got beat tonight primarily by the 4th and 3rd line of Vegas. And it was just, they were getting muscled off the puck. It was just over and over again. And it's just, it's disappointing in so many ways. And you're right. You have to look at the captain. You have to look at Tyler Seguin. You have to look at some of these players. And I'm not trying to hit the panic button, but you're right. Jamie Benn cost this team one game, and tonight, when he had a chance to shine, when he had a chance to put it all on the line, wasn't really there. He made one good play where he prevented, a puck from going, probably that was going to go in with a poke check of the puck. But as far as the hitting, not there. As far as Sean, I'm not trying to I paid attention to the game. So I'm not I'm honestly asking this as far as quality scoring chances for the Stars through three periods. I did not see one where I'm oh my God, Aiden Hill looked great.
No, not at all. I have, let's see, you look at it and I go through it and there's I mean, second period. Now that was Mason Marchment misses an empty net. Like that's like puck sitting there on the doorstep. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you go and like you look at it. If I told you, let's see if I look at it right now. If I told you that Jamie Benn allegedly played 12 minutes and 36 seconds of hockey tonight, you wouldn't believe me. I mean, like it's
Right.
he was. I mean, you knew because he was on the ice for 2 goals against in the first period. So his 14 was in the background as he was as Vegas was celebrating goals. Like it's it's baffling to me because there's only there's only so much that like you got to give Vegas credit. I'm not taking any credit away from Vegas at all on this, but it's the spot too where it's how the first period went. And then in the second period where like, so it's 3-0 at the end of the first period, right? It was over. And Dallas essentially guaranteed it was over because in the second period, I mean, you have that's the time where it's like, okay, you're down 3-0. We were down 3-0 in this series. This is when we push back. The second period, Vegas basically popped it into cruise control, and Dallas was willing to do it with them. Like they're both like, okay, we're just like, oh, we'll just all take a leisurely public skate for the next 40 minutes. And that's what they did. I mean, it's a disappointing end of season. And I do want to have like with this taste and this feeling about this, like I do want to talk more about this, what this run means and all of that stuff, because that's great. But at this point, right after this game, with what they fought back for and everything like that, this is incredibly disappointing. And it's so hard not to link game 3 to game 6 and not to link the actions back to the captain. And it's just the reality.
Yep. One play that's not going to show up, Sean, because they actually got the puck back, but the Stars are about to go on their first power play. And Mason Marchment gets the puck and he lifts it in the air to clear the zone. And I'm like, bro, you don't even know you're going on the power play. Like that just summed up the night where it was just Ryan Suter. I understand elbows go high, but that's a needless penalty. And there were just times during that where I'm like, my goodness, I mean, do you realize the magnitude of this? And I mean, I'll give credit to PK Subban of ESPN. He was visually frustrated by the Stars' execution tonight. And I think a lot of Stars fans were as well. You're right. Great season. Can't say it enough. But man, it's just so disappointing because, like I say, if you go out against in Vegas, if you lose in overtime, if you fight back and it's all of a sudden you're down by 2 goals, crowd's going nuts. I mean, then it's like, hey, you kept fighting back. You were down 3-0. You were down big in game 6 and you kept coming back. There's a lot of fight in this club. Tonight, it was just nothing was there. And I mean, nothing was there. You're the best face-off team in the league, and you got beat by the Knights tonight, 54% to 46%. So, it was, I mean, there wasn't even enough effort to draw a trip or, there wasn't even enough like where the crowd could get mad. They're just what those fans were in their seats and quiet so early. That first period just took so much life out of the team.
Yeah, like you have like as if you're a fan in that building, and I know there's many people who listen to the show who are fans in that building, I'm sorry for you. Like, and I know apology coming from 2 guys sitting on a podcast doesn't do anything, but like I feel sorry because like you come out and you're there and all that stuff. Like, I mean, it's like I hate this to say this because it's true, but like I knew this was over, right? Going into tonight to give you an idea of how my life schedule works, right? Like I had booked a hotel in Dallas, I had booked a hotel in Vegas for game 1 and 2. I'm like, okay, I'll book them both. And by second intermission, I was booking flights for Vegas because that's how much done this was. And it's sad that that's what happened because we had a chance for something great to see. and we had an opportunity to see something great. And it's like, give Dallas like game 4 and 5 always going to be a fun memory, but when you lose, it's not just that you lost, it's the way you lost. You're all of a sudden like, okay, what was game 4 and 5 even for? It's frustrating, but that's what it feels like.
It was so obvious that getting in front of Aiden Hill was the key to victory in those games and causing havoc, and they were all over it. And tonight there was just nothing in front of the net. Everything was to the outside. Credit Vegas to a certain standpoint, but I mean, God, just get in front of the net a couple of times. It was just so frustrating. But do we want to go to questions?
Let's do it, because there's nothing. Right. I mean,
there's
people
nothing
know.
we could talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
People know. All right, Jordan Harper, who's been with us all year. Thank you so much, Jordan. Thanks for doing the podcast this season. No, thank you, Jordan. You both added a lot of insight throughout the season and playoffs. Look forward to off-season conversations and episodes. So, yes. Sean and I have talked, and there are some really interesting shows that we're going to provide for you, and excited about that. We didn't want to look ahead too far, but it's very inspiring to see the numbers of this podcast, Sean, and it's very motivating to continue this podcast in the off season, where we'll bring you fresh podcasts on a regular basis. I will let Sean go back to his wife. We will not do these. We will not do these late night podcasts, but we will talk it out, and we will have some great podcasts to come.
We will have some more fun. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, Cameron Teague. The fact that we made it this far with only 2 working D-men in our lineup is awesome. Great season, but what a huge slap in the face to your fans with this effort in Game 6. Now let's get to fixing the problem areas and getting better. Go Stars. So fixing the problem areas will be an interesting podcast in the future, because it's not like they're sitting on a lot of cap space, and it's not like this is one of the better years for UFAs, unrestricted free agents. So it will take some creativity, and we shall see.
Yeah.
Oleg says this franchise likes to be eliminated in glorious fashion. Think about the last few. That is, I mean, the Game 7 against St. Louis hurt. Was the other one? Let's see. What would be the other disappointing? Was it the Nashville loss?
I mean, it's the St. Louis one. I mean, the double overtime Game 7 in St. Louis was. It was a great hockey game. That's one where it's like. So I'm not really.
Maybe Calgary, but you just felt as though Calgary was the better squad.
You lost to Calgary in double overtime. Like, this is felt. This one feels weird, right? It's like the Game 7 to St. Louis. Like, you had a chance to win. You didn't have a chance to win the series tonight, but you had a chance to fight for something, and you didn't. And so this one feels like really weird, because it's like it was the spot where you were playing with. You're playing with house money, you got a full bucket of it and everything like that. And instead of even putting it into the slot machine, and I'm intentionally using a Vegas pun here, instead of even putting it into the slot machine, you like tripped and let it go down the gutter. Like, that's what you did.
That's a great point. Joe at Joe Walton 9090. What's the biggest thing Nil needs to do this offseason to help this team? We'll do a future podcast on this. I don't know how they will. Just I'm letting you know, Joe, just to know we're not avoiding Stars fans. Is I think they need to continue to work on that decor. I don't know how they can, because a lot of them are under contract, but Sean and I will deep dive and try to come up with some creative thoughts. So
I will say, and I'm sure we'll get a question about this, but I've been thinking more and more about it, and there's a lot of nuance to this statement, and I want to be very clear. There's a lot of nuance to why in this statement, but I have been thinking more and more about the potential Ryan Suter buyout, and there's a lot of nuance to why you do it. And I want to be clear, it's something where it's not necessarily completely. Ryan Suter actually wasn't as bad. Like, he had some rough moments in the Western Conference Final, but he wasn't as bad as I think he gets dragged all the time. But at the same time, the more and more I think about the Ryan Suter thing, like we'll probably have to do a full episode on the potential Ryan Suter buyout, because I see, to me, it starts to look like the best path forward. And I want to explain why in a more nuanced fashion. So I'm giving that to people right now. I believe that there's a future where the Stars buy out Ryan Suter, and I want to explain why. But I want to do that in another podcast where we can talk more about it. So any Ryan Suter questions about the buyout, which I'm sure will pop up on Twitter tonight. Like I agree with you, but I want to explain why, and I want to do it in a deeper podcast where I could go through some things when we're not fresh off Game 6.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We will get to those things. And that's what the greatest thing about this podcast is we can do just an entire podcast where Sean breaks down the salary cap figures and why, and the analytics for the Ryan Suter situation, pro or against. So it would take too long tonight, and we want to get all your questions in. And we are coming off the Game 6 loss. Combat Wombat at Texas Combat Wombat. You don't lose this bad because of one guy, Suter. So I assume there's a few roster moves to get stronger defensive play. Are there a few veterans you see as being gone next year? How much do they miss Dadonov? He wasn't talked about a lot, but I do feel as though that certainly was a loss in this series. He was terrific as a whole with the Stars.
He was, I thought one of the bigger stories that we not missed, but one of the bigger stories that kind of fell down the shuffling order from Game 4 and 5 was how good the Stars were in transition, despite Dadonov being out. And so, yes, I mean, he was definitely missed. He was, he'll be a fascinating UFA decision for both himself and the Stars, because I felt the Stars were a better team when Evgeny Dadonov was in the lineup. But to kind of talk about some veterans and stuff, like you look at, did we see the last potentially by either their choice or the Stars' choice? Was tonight the final start? Have we seen the final Stars game for Dadonov? Have we seen the final Stars game for Domi? Have we seen the final Stars game for Glendening? Have we seen the final Stars game for Yoel Kiviranta? Like, have we seen the final Stars games for Joel Hanley? Like, there's going to be some really interesting decisions moving forward. And have we seen it for Ryan Suter? Have we seen it for some on the defense? Because there's going to be some tough decisions to be made this summer, and it's going to really shape what this team looks like. And I think this team, obviously, where they got to this year and everything like that, they could have won it all. They really could have won it all. But they will not. You can't roll it back. You can't roll it back with just saying, hey, we can just bring this complete group back, because you can't have a 39-year-old defenseman playing your second pair minutes. You can't be relying on guys who are going to be 35, 36 years old when you got some guys waiting in the wings that are ready. So really, really fascinating offseason coming for this Dallas. So
absolutely. And you mentioned him, Sean. Unrestricted free agents this year: Dadonov, Domi, Glendening, Kiviranta, Fredrik Olofsson, which will be interesting.
That's a really interesting. That's actually a more interesting one than I thought, because I think, just on a quick aside, I thought Olofsson's play in Game 4 and 5 definitely is the type of play that will have caught the eye of somebody, right? Like it's something where it's somebody is going to look at his game from Game 4 and 5 and say, you know what, I got some extra cap space. I can bring that guy in. And if you're Freddie Olofsson and you're the one who was scratched tonight, like, real quick, Gavin, let's speaking of Freddie Olofsson, I'm taking a quick, I'm sideswiping our show for a second here.
Take it.
I mentioned this on the last podcast, and we knew Mason Marchment would be in the lineup. We knew that. We knew that was going to happen, but I disagree with the decision. The more and more I looked at it going in, and I even tweeted this before the game, like, now the whole thing was a mess tonight. So it's not Mason Marchment playing versus Freddie Olofsson wasn't the reason they lost 6-0. But going into tonight, I would have played Olofsson and scratched Marchment, and just, you had a fourth in Game 5 and Game 4. You had a fourth line that was rolling with with Olofsson and Fox and Glendenning. You had a third line that was working, and you took away a piece that was working to overly respect a contract. And I don't know. That sits. I don't like that decision. It's not the reason they lost 6-0. And if I'm Freddie Olofsson, obviously he signed out of Europe and signed with Dallas, so obviously they gave him an opportunity. But it's the type of move too, where if I'm Freddie Olofsson, like if a crummy Mason Marchment's sticking in the lineup over
Yeah.
me, like why am I sticking here? Just thinking aloud. So
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. For those Stars fans wondering, Marchment has 3 more years at $4.5 million a year.
yeah. Yep.
So, and he has a modified no trade, which means that he submitted 10 teams. All right.
But who trades for a guy
Well,
making
exactly.
$4 million a year and does nothing in the playoffs? So that's the other thing.
Exactly. Exactly. But you're right. I mean, clearly that was the right move, and they did not pull the trigger. Let's see. Rupert says, I have no question tonight. Just wanted to say, and it says Sean will understand, obladi oblada. Are you gonna fill us in? As you and Rupert got some inside stuff going on?
Well, I mean, when you go back from to obladi, it is the I think it, I mean it's a Beatles song. It's the it's from the White Album.
Yeah.
When 2 years ago, it was 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, it was when Blake Como was still the locker room DJ post game. They played a lot of it, and Jamie Benn did not even know much about the White Album, so I'm not sure if this is a deep this is a deep pull.
All right.
And it's a really good pull, and you know what? It's if I remember correctly, the song, like at one point it was like considered like one of the worst songs of all time. Like someone who's got like a good like music history on that. Like Mike Heike, who works for the Stars and everything like that. Hikes is a really good music buff, and I remember him telling me at some point that there's some reputable source that looked at that one of the worst albums of all time. And so not the White Album, the Obla song. The rest of the album was great. So yeah.
All right. Ryan, just to throw this question in, when will this rink stop playing that dumb AF darkness music after every goal against? Never seen a barn call out, make light of an opposing team's success like this one does. It's tired, dumb, and deflating. Why do that to your own crowd? The goal scored is bad enough.
I love the darkness music, honestly.
All right.
One of my dreams, and I've pushed and I've tried to get I've multiple arena DJs. No one's been able to find it for me. I want to know where the music came from. Like no one can find it or where it came from. It's just in the system and it just gets played and no one can find it and no one's claimed it. So like it's one of my white whales of big J journalism. I'd love to find out who wrote I would love to find out who wrote. I love it though. I think it's okay to be self-deprecating. It's okay to have fun with it. I mean, you got to do something after it, right? So I don't think it's. I mean, do you want to play like? You're not gonna like play the YMCA after their team scores, so like it's like so I don't mind it. So
you know what I actually, and this is Stars fans, I love you. I'm one of you, okay? I know everyone shouts, who cares? I actually want to know that information, and maybe it's just a geek in me. But when I'm in the arena, I'm like listening and everyone's saying like at the end, who cares? And I'm like writing it down because I'm a stat nerd, because I like to see who's on the assists, so I can, go back and watch the play. All right. Mayor Patel. Sagan's obviously not the player he used to be with injuries, but can he have some kind of resurgence like Ben did this year? Maybe having him play with Stankoven the way Ben did with Johnston.
I mean, I thought Sagan actually had a bit of an underrated resurgence this year in the regular
season.
He
did, yeah.
Like, I mean, now this series was quite awful for Sagan. I mean, like Ben is catching a lot of heat for, will catch a lot of heat, rightfully so, for what happened and everything like that. But I mean, Sagan in this series, right? He was minus. I'm looking at it right now. He was like -7 or something like that, or even worse. And he had a bit of a resurgence this year in the regular season. I don't know, like I don't know what else Tyler Sagan can be anymore, right? Like he's like not like he was a 50-point guy this season. Um, I mean, he's not going to go back to being an 80-point guy like he was during the 2018-19 season. He hasn't been the same since the sliced Achilles. It's just the reality of it. And so I think if you can get 50 points out of Tyler Sagan next year, that's great. Like it's
Yeah.
just it's the reality. That's who he is at this point in his career. And I don't think he was kind of a secondary character to Ben all year. And he's going to continue to be a secondary character to Ben because of how Ben's actions affected this series. But that's who Tyler Sagan is. And I feel for Tyler too, because his game was taken from him by injury. It was his body basically. He dealt with some really unlucky breaks injury wise, and things kind of was never. It's the human body doesn't just recover at 31 like the way it used to. So
Right. So Stankoven was mentioned in that tweet, and earlier today I got a tweet from @CoreyD tweets, and he said to me, Stankoven will be awesome in the NHL soon, but we might have something in Matthew Semenoff as well. This is what I replied, Sean, and I wanted to get your thoughts. Because I get it. It's a popular name, and everything I've seen is he does look great. But I put, let's see how they fare in the offseason and preseason. Both are terrific prospects. Look how much Harley and Bork have improved with a year in Texas. Much different game in the AHL compared to juniors. The leap from juniors to the NHL is rare and special. I'm just going to throw this out there, Sean. I think Wyatt Johnston kind of put in our heads that, well, look at Wyatt Johnston. Imagine what Stankoven's going to do next year.
yeah, it's not. I mean, it's the same way that Miro Heiskanen broke and made the curve unfair for any first-round pick defenseman. Like, I don't think. When I look at Stankoven, I think he has a legit chance to make the Stars next season, and I hope he does. I hope he earns that spot. I also think there's the space where you have to go into the season, and this is another like cap management discussion. You have to go into the season assuming he's not going to earn that spot and treat it like if he does it, you got a stud on an entry level contract for 3 years. I think you have to treat it that way. I don't think. I think like I personally think he will play in the NHL next year, and I think he will be ready. But I think the expectation that he can resuscitate Tyler Sagan's career or be this guy, like most players hit a wall. Most players do. What Wyatt Johnston did this year is remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
What Miro Heiskanen did is remarkable. More guys are going to follow the path of Maverick Bork, where they're going to need 2-3 years in the AHL to get it. And so get excited about Stankoven, be excited about where he's going and everything like that. But also don't put too much into that basket, because I think too often we do that. Let's see what he looks like next season early on and see what happens. So.
Absolutely. Ian Tharp @ Ian Tharp. I want to see us address defense this offseason so that Miro doesn't have to play 30 minutes per game in the playoffs. I'll stop that there and say most likely Miro's going to play nearly 30 minutes all the time because he eats ice time big time.
I'm fine. I'm fine with Miro playing 30 minutes in the playoffs. Because I want my best defenseman on the ice for 30 minutes in the playoffs. For me, it's the minutes I would prefer in games where in the regular season where you can get it down and stuff like that. But I'm never going to complain about playing your best player for almost 30 minutes in the playoffs.
Yeah. Are there any upcoming free agents that Ian asked that we'll be able to sign? We'll discuss that.
Can I?
Yeah.
And I'm joking, but can I interest you in a right shot defenseman that moves the puck well at the point? Oh wait, it's John Klingberg.
Oh, okay, all right. I'll throw this one back at you.
Yeah.
Can I interest you, Sean, in a player that was healthy scratched at times that made an unfortunate hit on Joe Pavelski in the playoffs?
I'm not.
You're not going to go there?
I'm not going to go with Matt Dumba.
All right. I understand. All right. Brian Tatum asked, does Ben have to win a cup to have his number retired one day? I like him and think he should be in the Stars Hall of Fame, but think a cup win should be required for that honor. The Dallas Stars Hall of Fame, he will certainly get in. That's a no-brainer. He's getting in.
Yeah, I mean, the number retired.
As far as
I think we've talked about this a little bit, Gavin. Like the number retired thing is, if as much as the team, it's what fans want and all that stuff, yada 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 yada, and you're all very important. But at the end of the day, one person and one person opinions only is the most important when it comes to retired numbers, and that is Tom Gaglardi. And we have seen Tom Gaglardi has not been great about not airing his frustrations with Ben. We know he's frustrated with Ben, whether it's using Jim Lights as a proxy to me, or going on Vancouver radio and ripping Jamie. We know Tom Gaglardi is not happy with what he believes he pays Jamie Benn to do more. And Tom Gaglardi, I can only imagine what the fly on the wall saw when Tom Gaglardi reacted to Jamie Benn's actions in Game 3. And if I say this, if the Detroit Red Wings have not retired Sergei Fedorov's number because of owner frustration with the player, if Tom Gaglardi looks at his best chance at a Stanley Cup was lost because of Jamie Benn's actions, irrational men do irrational things. So I like, should Jamie Benn's number be retired? Yes, he's number 14. Is no one else should wear number 14 in Dallas history. That's the rational take.
Yep.
But irrational men do irrational things. So
yeah. And this is a Game 6, a post game. I'm Gavin Spittle. The person you're listening to is Sean Shapiro. For those that don't know, that huge controversy a few years back with Jim Lights, Sean Shapiro was the only one in the room. Yes. And were you listening to when they were saying that about the two players? Were you saying to yourself, is this a prank? Like, no one else is in the room. Like, I'm getting all this like amazing information.
I mean, to go back to that moment, right? Like, it's
like a journalist dream, right?
Well, and it's the space where, like, I remember, how this works in journalism, Gavin. There's times where, like, people go, especially in sports, where people don't understand how on and off the record works sometimes. And so I know that. And so I'm covering my ass in that moment where it's like, so Jim, this is all on the record, right? Like, yes, 100%. Like, it was on the record, 100%. And it was like, and you're going through and you're like, I remember calling my editor at the time. Like, I got a story and I turned it into him and he called me and he's like, please tell me you have the tape. And I still have the tape.
Wow.
I still have that tape, because one of the things I learned in journalism, and I don't know what terminology they tell people to do and everything like that, but like, because I don't know what the statute of limitations is, but like, I will save that tape for the rest of my life, because I don't want 20 years from now to get a call from someone to have any question at all that was what actually happened, because that was very real, very surreal, and it showed a lot of the ownership's true colors of how they feel about players they pay a lot of money who don't win Stanley Cups. So to get back to that prior, to loop this back to 14 into the rafters. So I mean, to me, there's no coincidence to me that you look in the rafters. of the retired numbers in Dallas, Gavin, um, every number that's retired in Dallas is someone who has won a Stanley Cup, did most of their work in Minnesota, or unfortunately in Bill Masterton's case, passed away tragically.
Right.
No one is up there without having won a cup. So
Right.
in
Right.
Dallas. So from
Yeah.
the Dallas era. So
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Uh we'll do we'll do a statue podcast. I want to do I want to do a banner one, because the next one comes from Belfour's Billions, who's been so great to us on Spits and Suds.
when we do the banners one, can I go on my rant about how the Mavericks banners don't match and it's completely asinine?
Yes,
because it's just ridiculous. Anywho, I just want to reserve my time for that soapbox.
I love it. I absolutely love it. All right. Belfour's Billion. I know officiating didn't lose this game for the Stars, but man, it was egregiously bad. I hate the whole swallow the whistles in big games. Curious to hear your July takes on where the Stars go from here. Some changes are obviously needed. Vegas is a great team, though. Yes, we need to point out Vegas is a great team. I actually thought the officials, I think it got better as the series went along. I'm sorry, Belfour Billion, but I had no issues with the whistles. I didn't see like calls that were just blatantly missed.
No, I didn't mean it was. I thought it was a pretty fairly called game. The one penalty in the first period was a black and white puck over the glass penalty. So I didn't have and if you want to start breaking down the nuance of like the Ryan Suter elbow on Kolesar was horrible.
Yeah.
And the Ryan Suter slash on Carrier in the third period, that was bad too.
Yeah.
There's no I'm not blaming the officials for this one.
I'll say this. Kolesar really impressed me in this series. Mm-hmm. That 2-on-1 where he banged it off the boards.
Yes.
That was sweet. And when you get your quote unquote bangers, your guys that exert their physicality with skill sets like that, I was just really impressed. I mean, Vegas came to play tonight. I love their confidence. And, I thought, overall they played, this wasn't like a Minnesota series where we're talking about dirty hits and dirty players. I mean, they played hard. They're a physical team. Their forecheck tonight, Sean, was impressive. And the way that they broke the Stars forecheck to lead to odd man breakouts was also impressive.
Yeah. I mean, it is a well-built team. It is I really like that line. I like the way they play. And you know what? Credit to Vegas on the way they do things. A lot of hockey people, right? Gotta remember Phil Kessel's getting healthy scratched right now.
Oh man, yes, great point.
This is not like so often we talk about people not doing, I talked earlier about Dallas being too loyal to Mason Marchment. I mean, Phil Kessel played 82 games. He'll be in the hockey. Phil Kessel will probably be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's the all-time Iron Man, and they're healthy scratching him for these guys, and it's the right decision. So,
yeah, you're absolutely right. All right, Ryan McDermott writes, pretty big letdown, but all in all, a fun ride. What young guys coming down the pipe can realistically make an impact next season? Stankoven, Bourque.
Bourque. Bourque, I think it's more fair to put expectation on Bourque than Stankoven. Yes. I think Stankoven is the one that's trendy, but I think Bourque is the one who has pro experience. I believe plays a style that will translate a little bit better. Not overall, not saying that I believe Bourque will be better in the long run, but but I think Bourque has a style and a transition point that allows him to be a better fit, at least going into training camp next year until I see more.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jason Rosenbaum, and thank you so much for all your questions, feedback. Asks, at J Rosenbaum. Know any good books to get through this off season? I got my copy for my birthday in late April. Thank you so much for your support of Sean. Jason, what do you all think is the biggest moments of the regular season and the postseason? Brightest moments. Sorry.
The brightest. Okay. Man. Okay. So, I mean, the playoffs, you win a game 7, you win a game 7. That's always iconic. You get the,
I like the Pavelski 4-goal game in the playoffs.
I mean, even though they lost that game, which is crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I mean, it's a shame because they got lost in the whole situation, but the way they came back and played game 4 and 5 was pretty good. I mean, and like regular season, it's easier for me to look at trends than individual moments right now, because we've got 20 games of playoffs right now that are fresh in mind. But like from the regular season, I look at where Wyatt Johnston came from and where he ended the season. I look at some of the I mean, the 10-goal game in Buffalo was pretty fun too. Like I look at stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely. I thought the Dodonov acquisition, which kind of flew under the radar, but was very exciting. I thought that was great. I think Robertson breaking the record was really cool. I just think Joe Pavelski's consistency through the season was great. And listen, I know that he let people down in the playoffs at times, but Jake Ottinger was your workhorse this year, so he deserves a lot of credit, and I think the future is bright for Jake.
Well, I think one of the things we need to have a conversation about goaltending. Not because Jake Ottinger is not the guy, but you look at, of the 4 teams in the final 4, Carolina, Florida, Dallas, Vegas. Dallas was the only one that used the same goalie, started the same goalie for every playoff game. Ottinger was playing his 81st game of the season tonight. Aiden Hill was playing like his 30th. Bobrovsky's run is absolutely historic on the other side, but it starts with him not even starting the first series. Vegas is on a backup. Vegas has used multiple goalies. Carolina used a trio of goalies this year. Dallas, and we will have an entire podcast about goaltending, Gavin, because this is a space where I'm going to get really nerdy on it. But just to give people a taste of this, like one of the Stars' biggest issues and organizational depths, and maybe Matt Murray's the guy, I don't know, but they didn't have a guy that they and the coaches trusted to play NHL games consistently. And that's why Jake Ottinger played 81 games this year. And that will be a huge talking point for me. And I'm looking forward to having a much deeper conversation about that. And how do you put Ottinger in a better spot where you don't even have to worry about the fatigue in the playoffs?
Yeah, absolutely. And Scott Wedgwood is set to return next year at $1 million.
Yeah. And to be clear, I think Scott Wedgwood is a good part of the plan. It's who else do you have that other guy after Scott Wedgwood you that trust? And I don't know if Dallas has that right now.
Yeah, Dylan Wells is a UFA also, Sean. It says UFA G6.
I don't really. I mean, Dylan Wells was a contract move. Dylan Wells was you had to move a contract when you moved for Hudobin. So.
Well, it was a good question, reflecting on the regular season and the playoffs.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Matthew Martin asks, from an X and O's perspective, guys, what did Vegas change to making our breakout so difficult, or did we just not have the legs tonight? I think it was a combo of both. Certainly the energy was down by the Stars, but I think Vegas, in my opinion, I think they went back to the basics as far as what makes Vegas special. You could see they were putting pressure on the Stars defensemen. They wanted the Stars defensemen to release the puck as early as possible. They were forcing mistakes in the Dallas end. They were forcing Dallas, which they didn't do in the last few games, to really fight to get out of their own zone. The stretch pass was not even a factor tonight. So I think those are the changes Vegas made. They were more physical. And I think, tactical wise, I think they just went back to the basics, what made them so successful in games 1 and probably 3. So what did you think?
Yeah, a lot of that, and then also I thought Vegas did a really good job of creating off the turnovers too. I think there's times where Vegas, and this happened in games 5 and 4, where Vegas may have had like that initial pressure, the first forward in, but they didn't create the they didn't really create right off of it. And I thought Vegas did a better job tonight of highlighting what they were doing by the ensuing action. Um, and I think that was one of the bigger things where I don't think Vegas changed as much. I think they just got back to basics with that. And then they also were actually built on it as opposed to flubbing it, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Debbie at Stars Fan D asks, work on shoring up defense and consistency and play for all. So we'll talk about that in the offseason. Thanks so much for your support, Debbie. Dylan Moreland asks, has there ever been a more burn the tape game in an elimination game?
I mean,
I'm sure there have been for other teams, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure there has been. I mean, it's from a Dallas perspective, it's in every if you get eliminated, honestly, if you get eliminated, it's a burn the tape game because you don't have a game to plan for until September.
Right.
So,
yeah. Absolutely. Robbie at Robvious, winning 2 in a row, put them in a spot to end the season with grace, but then fumbled it all away tonight. Multiple times, the Stars had 3-1 advantage along the boards for a puck battle and somehow lost it every time. Thought the entire team, top to bottom, was awful. I mean, a great point. They did have several times where they were going against one Vegas player and somehow the puck would end up in Vegas's hands. So that just really comes down to, I don't know, effort's a bad word, Sean. I hate to use that word, but at the same time, you just got to be better in all areas.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's execution too, like effort, execution, and it's not that players don't want it. I always hate that narrative, but I hate when people say that because players want to win. It's not a desire thing, but I think it's more of a execution becomes a bigger thing. So
absolutely. Wildcat King asks, see, we get to provide some good news tonight. Just tell me we have a shot at re-signing Pavs.
He's already signed.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. We do have a shot. Yeah, he's coming back next year, Wildcat.
He's already signed. So yeah, that's not an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Howway at Howway4, who's been a dedicated Spits and Suds guy, just wanted to say thank you for reinvigorating my love for hockey this year. Love the way you all help folks learn more about the sport in an inclusive way. That's me, by the way, not Sean. My question, if you had to choose between keeping Dodonov or Domi, who would you pick and why? Oh, that's a good question, Howway. I need to see the numbers. I need to go cap nerd here, Sean. I need to know the numbers so I can make a decision based on how else I can improve this team.
I agree with that. Yeah, it's something where I need to take a deeper look at the numbers. That's definitely a full conversation to have. One player's younger, but one player I think has one player's younger and may have a higher quote unquote ceiling, but has a lower floor, and the other one's probably is a little bit older, will cost a little bit less off first reaction, but I think has a higher floor where that I don't have to worry about the. I mean, I look at it's poor Mason Marchment. Well, not poor Mason Marchment. He's making a lot of money, but he's making a lot of money, and that contract is gonna if he doesn't turn it around next year, after this playoffs, it's going to start to look really bad. And you could see, you look at Domi, I think Domi's got a little bit, he does have a larger track record than Marchment than before he signed. But when you sign an older player and you sign him to a year or two, like you would sign to Downhoff, you're not running into the same issue of if it doesn't go, if it's not all flowers and rainbows. So
Yeah, absolutely. Ken Jr. _67. What do you think is the reason for the change in play between game 5 and 6? Ben being back in the lineup should not have affected the play in game 6 like this. It should have affected it in a positive way, and it did not.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's just tough. At who is Mr. John Galt? Why do you think we came out so flat tonight? I got to be honest with you, John. Sean and I talk about this ad nauseum.
Yeah.
Why this team cannot come out of the gates with amazing energy. You got a packed barn tonight, people screaming, from the first puck drop. I mean, you should be throwing your body around. You should be, giving this crowd reasons to cheer. And if you look back, you can just see so many games where the crowd is sitting on their hands halfway through the first period. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Yeah.
Millsy, you're such a great fan. Thank you so much. Great ride. I was entertained all year long. My question is how the Stars get better on the blue line. I know we were a solid defensive team this year, but I felt like it was a glaring issue in our losses. I will say, on a positive note, Millsy, and Sean agrees with this, it is great to see. And that, we talk about bright spots during the regular season, the rise of Thomas Harley coming in late in the year and becoming a part of this top 6 defensive core.
Well, Harley has a really bright future. I think he's their second best defenseman right now and will be therefore in September. And there's the key to me is how do you go into next season? How do you approach and build things where you are getting the best out of not only Thomas Harley, but you're also now maximizing Nils Lundkvist, because he's someone who you talk about something you need and must salvage. It's Nils Lundkvist, and you have to do that, and you have to look at some other things on the defense too. Once again, it's going to be a fascinating full show on the Stars defense that we're going to do soon, and we will, because it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Stars fans that say, well, maybe we can use Nils Lundkvist in a trade, I would counter with how many teams are willing to take a former first-round draft pick that was a healthy scratch for you. Not many. That's just not. I mean, you could get something for him probably, but it's not going to be anything substantial. Yeah. All right, Kate Twizzle. You're such a great Stars fan, Kate Twizzle. First question, easy one, Gavin, Ken, and Sean. Can Dallas buy out the rest of Suter's contract? Yes, we're going to do a deep dive on that in the offseason. Why wasn't Olofsson starting and why wasn't Marchment scratched? Hashtag Tolo. Thanks for listening to that. Means turn it on, leave it on. 105.3 The Fan. So, yeah, we discussed both actually earlier in this podcast, K-Twiz. We both thought Olofsson should be in. We thought Marchment should be out. And Sean is going to bring us some really cool analytics and his opinion on the Suter situation in a future podcast.
Yes, we will.
All right. Allison Taylor. None of the bounces seem to go our way. How many goals were on Otter versus the D? That's a good question, Sean. I didn't really see. I mean, I guess he could have saved a few, but I didn't see any weak ones tonight. You?
No, I mean, you get outshot. What was it in the first period? 16-7. Dallas had, by my count, Vegas had more goals than the Stars had quality chances. It's just the reality of it. And if you want to nitpick and you want to pick on Jake Ottinger, not pick on Jake Ottinger, but if you want to nitpick, I did think in the first period, his footwork was a little bit off to me. Not in a bad like I blame nothing on Jake Ottinger for this loss, but I also wonder how much of that is the energy, and he's playing game 82 in the year. So, but this is Stars defense got torched. It's whether you put it didn't matter who was in goal, even if you. So it's on the Stars defense tonight, not Jake Ottinger.
Yeah. She also asked a great second part question that is not being talked about. The Stars kept Eichel from scoring in the series. Sorry. Is that more that he was passing it to open teammates? I will say this about Jack Eichel, and we had a candid conversation at the beginning of this podcast, which you heard about Jamie Benn. Even though Jack Eichel didn't score, he was a massive factor, whether it be back checking or playing defense or creating plays. I thought he was a big part of the Vegas series.
Oh yeah, I mean, you couldn't watch him play and tell me that he didn't have an impact. Like,
yeah,
and so he was. I don't think. I mean, I don't really put his lack of scoring. I wouldn't hold that against him. Now, it's yeah, he played a huge role in the series. So
yeah, absolutely. Tyler Mayer asks, hell of a season, but they go out on a whimper. Hard to argue they weren't giving their full effort, but how on earth do you play that poorly in an elimination game at home after such a strong game 5? I mean, well, Tyler, how do you play that game? Game 3 coming back to your building as well. So those are the questions that Sean and I have been asking, why this team can't come out. And I think Stars fans should be asking that question as well. Robert Tiffin, what is the best consolation ice cream? That's a good question for Sean Shapiro.
Best consolation ice cream. See, I'm a big fan of mint chocolate chip ice cream. That's the
okay.
That's kind of my that's my go-to. If I'm not going with the mint chocolate chip ice cream, I like something that's got like chocolate and peanut butter.
Okay. If I say pistachio gelato, that take away my man card?
No, it just sounds very highbrow. It's like it sounds very highbrow. It's like it's like I watch Formula 1, but I don't watch NASCAR. Like it's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's just a choice, and that's fine. Like,
I understand.
It's fine. So
all right. I actually buy pistachios and put it in there too. That is like so highbrow. I should not admit that stuff.
That is So
yep.
It's highbrow. Right. That's what it is.
Sean calling me out. I like this. You can see we're getting chippy. Let's see. The Addis faction, that's with 2 Ds, just expressed his opinion. Our expectations for you were low, but holy fuck. So there you go. That Rangers will be better in 2023. Well, that's factual. He says, what an embarrassment. Dylan Heath at D Heath 03. Offense chose a bad time to get cold. A fantastic offense overshadowed some shortcomings on defense almost all season. When the goals dried up, it really showed itself in the worst way against Vegas. Vegas played better and cleaner version of hockey most of the series. I think, Dylan, you answered. That was a very good tweet by you. Callahan Irwin at Cal Irwin 1. I've never been a fan of talking bad about my team on social media, but damn it, I'm disappointed. Overall, I'm so proud of this team. The next 5 months are going to suck. Hey, at least it's 5 months. It could be 7. But I'm so excited for next season. On a personal note, I only missed 2 home games this season. Go Stars always. Callahan, you're a beast for that. You got to hit me up in the future. I'll buy you a Frosty. That's pretty badass, missing only 2 games. But yeah, we're all disappointed tonight. Aaron Trebing at Aaron Trebe.
Hey, he missed Callahan missed just as many home games as Jamie Benn did.
Oh man, Sean Shapiro late night is greatness. That's what I'm gonna miss. I'm gonna miss when we start doing daytime podcasts. I'm gonna miss late night Sean Shapiro.
We'll trade Frosties for coffee, and it'll be.
All right, you're listening to Spits and Suds. It's the uncensored Shapiro version. All right. All right. Aaron Trebeek does ask, is there some sort of DFW curse where local teams don't show up for the biggest game? Oof.
I mean,
This team needs to win a championship. Absolutely.
Well, it's what we're going through since now 2011 Mavs, right? That's the last title for DFW.
That is correct, sir. So, yeah, absolutely. And Ray Ann Walthers ends it. Great season. Looked like they just ran out of steam. Can't wait to listen to the off-season shows. Love listening to you both. And we appreciate it very much. Mr. Shapiro, I do this for you.
There you go.
Hear that? You hear that? Crack?
I did.
That is for you. A quick personal plug for myself. I used to go to games with a girl named Cami Resnick. She was a friend of mine. One of my best friends, Jeff. She passed away 2 years ago of a brain aneurysm. And going to the games this year, Sean, Cami used to always make fun of me. She said, you're not going into a snowstorm, because I'd wear a winter hat and clothes. And I missed that, but I drew a lot of smiles thinking of her this year. So I know you were watching the games, Cami. So I will always love you, and God bless you. And we miss you very much. Sean, this has been an absolute pleasure. It's not goodbye. I'm going to force you to do more podcasts. You have been an absolute beast. You have been a great teammate. And not to get sappy, but thank you so much, man. I love like picking your stars and NHL brain and stuff like that. And you've been a fabulous co-host.
Yeah, Gavin, it's been fun. I know we're already talked on this show about other pods we're gonna do and everything like that. So it's we've got a lot coming up still, but this was to one of the things to just kind of, this will be a little bit sappy. That's fine. Obviously before this season started, you go back to September, my career took a bit of a turn that was unexpected. Lost a job I wasn't expecting to lose, and had to figure life out quite a bit. And one of the conversations I had soon after that, you and I started chatting about, hey, would you be interested in doing some of this, doing some hopping on and going into the podcast space, because that's something that I was now able to do, being a free agent, not by choice at the time. And it's been a lot of fun, man. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you for bringing me on board for this, letting us continue to talk Stars hockey as often as we do, and to really stay engaged in all this, because it's and as I said, this is gonna be a little bit sappy, but I really look forward to this. It's been a weird, for me, it was sometimes that were weird figuring out this media industry as things have changed, and I was forced to figure some things out, but this was a really nice stability point for me, kind of from early on and everything, for us to come in and talk hockey, to have some fun, have some great conversations. So I want to say thank you to you, man, for helping put this together, helping bring me on board here, and to the people who have listened, because like we see the numbers, and it's been, I mean, that's so cool. Like it's really cool. Like it's something where I know it's everybody wants to. I mean, this is really one of the coolest things I do every week. So I really appreciate everyone listening. I appreciate you guys for doing that. It's been fun, man.
There's absolutely. And from what you just heard is all the more reason to buy the book We Win Here.
You're so good at that pivot, man.
Thank you, man.
You're so good at that pivot.
So we will probably do a podcast where we go over the stories of We Win Here, but that doesn't mean you can't buy the book.
Correct,
all right.
Correct.
Sean put a lot of effort into it. Some terrific stories of the Texas Stars, which now are the Dallas Stars, many of the players. So it's a cool book, and love supporting Sean and his cause. Also want to point out, so we have a silent producer called Gregory Finley.
Yes, Greg.
And Greg, we came up with this idea that, hey, you know what? After the games, could we do a podcast? And the reason we say that is because if Sean and I took the era, if we went, let's say tomorrow, it takes some time to turn it around. And by that time, it's like early afternoon and, you're dated information by then. And so Greg, without a pause, said absolutely. And he's been with us even on his days off from work. And I asked him, because it was late nights and I was running up to the radio station, and I said, is it possible to get a microphone and some equipment? And I had that equipment within a week, and that allows me to do it out of my house late night. And he's just been a rock star and an all-star. And we probably should have mentioned him more, but thank you so much, Greg. It just truly means the world how dedicated you have been on this ride. And finally, as Sean pointed out, this is all about you, Stars fans. So one of the reasons that we created Spits and Suds, and we were very fortunate to bring Sean on, but all I heard from Stars fans was nobody talks about the Dallas Stars on a consistent basis. So to be honest with you, we wanted to create something so we could. And it was also to call the bluff of the Dallas Stars fans, because here it is. And you know what? You guys rose to the occasion. And I cannot stick tap you guys enough, because people say that hockey talk doesn't work in this town. Well, Spits and Suds has absolutely grown further than my expectations, further than Sean's expectations. It's just been special. And that's why we want to continue it. That's why we want to deep dive. That's why we want to be personal on Twitter and read all your questions. So, it's not a goodbye, so I hate to elongate this stuff, but it truly is a thank you. It's a massive thank you, because you guys, when we came up with this idea, hey, let's do post-game playoff, we just figured, it's good. And so therefore we can get fresh material. What we didn't know is that you guys would come out, I'll be very honest, more than any other hockey podcast in Odyssey. And there are some big markets. There are original 6 markets. And for you guys to do that, that shows how great of a fan base you truly are. So while the season ended, we have letter grades to give out in a future podcast. Sean's got deep dives on players. We got letter grades to give out on the individual players. We have so much more to bring you guys, and you guys are the ones that propel us to do that. So a massive thanks. So Sean, man, get some sleep. You deserve it.
Yeah, and everyone, once again, thank you. And I will say this, the buyout window starts June 15th, or 48 hours after the Stanley Cup is awarded. So whatever comes first. So sorry, whatever comes second. So
all right. So you guys have to spread the word. The podcast is Spits and Suds. And you know what? So when we do these podcasts, if you subscribe to this podcast, it'll automatically show up on your feed, because we're going to be doing these, and I'm going to be trying to book some really cool interviews. I want to get Hannah Bilka back on. She was just playing for Team USA. So I want to get an update for her, because she's transferring to Ohio State. She's out of Capel. We talked about having Curtis McKenzie on, Mike McKenna. We're going to get some cool guests on as well. So subscribe so that these can get right to your phone or go right to your computer. So for Sean Shapiro, I'm Gavin Spittle. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, the Stars eliminated tonight, but we'll be back soon with another episode of Spits and Suds right here on 105.3 The Fan, or wherever your favorite podcasts are found.